and we will begin. We will open up for questions at the end. Here we have Ms. Ruth Mirza. He is an undergraduate chemistry student at UNM. Our second speaker is Ramiz Bernie. He is a master's student studying business. Our third speaker is the Imam of the Islamic Center of New Mexico, Shafi, and his wife, Catherine. Without further ado,
cool. Thank you all for being here. Hopefully this will be exciting. Hopefully we can answer some questions and maybe you guys learn a thing or two about Islam while you're at it. So this is actually more of an anti-ISIS panel, as you can see. We're going to be talking primarily about the non-relationship between Islam and ISIS. I'm going to be discussing justice. You guys just want to go down the line and speak each other. We're all going to be talking about it, so we can go ahead and get involved. So again, my name is Masood Mirza. I'll be talking about justice. I'll be using some Quran and primarily the Quran as my source. We'll talk about what justice is in Islam.
Anyway, my name is Levi. You guys are great, and really what I wanted to focus on is kind of knowledge that we have and where that knowledge is coming from, which is really the cause of a lot of misunderstanding and just in general chaos. So that's really what I wanted to focus on. I'll just let the Sheikh talk more about it.
Assalamu alaikum, that is our greeting of Jesus, Abraham, Moses, and all prophets, greeting of peace. We are here to meet the public, to exchange or to connect the missing link with members of our society, especially here on campus. We want to discuss ISIS from Islamic point of view, how we see it, and welcome. We will try our best. Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Catherine. I'm going to be talking primarily about my identity today, my identity as a Muslim and American, and just helping elaborate on the fact that those two things are not mutually exclusive, which I think is the fun of this discussion. So hopefully we can offer a little enlightenment and answer some questions that those who are understand.
Cool. All right, so let's get started. So, justice in Islam. So what is justice? So in the Islamic worldview, justice denotes placing things in their rightful place. This means that it gives others equality, that it gives moral virtue to everyone that we're surrounded by, and it also, justice is about doing essentially the right thing for every human personality. It's about creating an equilibrium, essentially, and distribution of rights and duties amongst all people around us. So in the Quran, justice is mentioned quite a few times. We'll use my tablet here if you guys don't mind to talk about it a little bit. So one of the verses that I really enjoy is from the 60th chapter of the Quran. It's the 8th verse. And it says, God does not forbid you from those who have not fought you because of your system, nor drove you out of your homes, that you deal kindly and equitably with them. For God loves everyone who is equitable. Another verse that is really good that I enjoy is in the 5th chapter of the Quran, and it's going to be the 8th verse. It says, O you who acknowledge. Now, O you who acknowledge is describing those who have acknowledged Islam, who understand Islam. So this is a message directed towards them. So this is a command for all Muslims. It says, O you who have acknowledged, stand for God as witnesses for justice, and let not the hatred towards the people make you avoid being just. Be just, for it is closer to awareness, and be aware of God. God is expert over all what you do. So this is a big thing, especially when it comes to the chaos we have in the world today, with groups like ISIS, is that they're primarily driven by hate. They're driven by hate from their governments, hate from the quote-unquote West. So it's very important to understand that God commands all Muslims to not Be unjust just because of hatred. Don't change your justice because of hatred that you're surrounded by. Lastly, in the 16th chapter, in the 90th verse, it says, God orders justice and goodness, and that you shall help the relatives, and he forbids from evil, vice, and transgression. He warns you that you may remember. Once again, God is commanding justice. He wants everyone to have justice. Again, I described justice at the very beginning of my little portion of this, and that is giving equal rights to everybody. Everybody having every human personality, having rights and dignity, no matter what they believe, no matter who they are, it doesn't matter. Justice is held by God, and God commands us to always remain just. And that's going to be the end of what I have to talk about. I'll go ahead and pass the mic on to Louise here, and we'll continue from there. Thank you so much, guys.
All right. So a little bit of what I want to talk about is where did all this, pro-ISIS, what draws these people to ISIS? Right? We can't believe that everybody that goes over there is one criminal, and therefore they go over there, right? So there's something wrong, right? And that comes into the stream of knowledge. Is where is our knowledge coming from now? Unfortunately, it doesn't come from the scholars per se. It comes from every young ignoramus that sits on Google, right? That decides to post on a blog or decides to, like certain feeds and whatnot. So that's where that knowledge is coming from. And what it creates is this fitna, per se, this temptation, right? And by definition, temptation, where it draws people in, right? It looks like, it's kind of like when you see somebody that's very good looking, and that's how it looks at the very beginning. When you're looking at war, you're looking at strife, all that stuff, it looks very attractive. But when you get there, all of a sudden you discover that it's not what you thought it was. But now you're already stuck. And that's what ISIS has created, is this fitna. So, you ask any of the scholars, they'll outrightly denounce ISIS. You don't support ISIS. But if you look on Google or if you look on Facebook, you see these people supporting it, and that's why. It's this lack of knowledge, it's this lack of the street. Okay. Also, you have to understand that Islam is not a religion of violence whatsoever. Okay, when Khalid ibn Walid killed his prisoners, and he came back and he told the Prophet, right? And the Prophet, or actually his people came back and told the Prophet Muhammad that this is what Khalid ibn Walid did. He killed his prisoners. And the Prophet turned towards the Kaaba and he raised his hands towards the sky and said, "Oh Allah, I'm not responsible for what Khalid did." He was so frightened by that he denounced it, and that's really where that comes from. Islam is not violent. Okay, we have to get rid of that concept, because what these people do is they take things out of context and they try to convince you that no, this is what Islam says. It's not true. The Prophet was very merciful, even in times of war, with his prisoners, with the people that he was fighting. That how can we conceive of him as a violent person, as a violent nation? And it goes back to the belief in God. A moral God would never ask you to be violent. In Islam, it's very clear that if two Muslims ever cross swords, they will both go to the fire. That's what the punishment crossing swords with your own brothers. Yet we see it happen. So, like I said, it's due to the lack of knowledge and really just the lack of scholars coming out, right? We tried. You can go talk to a scholar back in the desert and he'll tell you, but that's not the majority opinion. That's not what we get our opinion from. So I'll go ahead and pass it off to Dave now, or Catherine actually. She'll talk to you.
I'm here to talk primarily about identity. I am an American living as a Catholic in Lafayette. So any of you with any touch with history of the American or French Revolution may recognize that last name. It's always been something that was a big part of my identity growing up. And I took it as kind of a responsibility to carry on that kind of spirit of fighting for justice, fighting for people's rights. And about 4 years ago, I started researching Islam. And what I discovered is that despite what a lot of people will tell you, despite what the media will try and tell you, it's not mutually exclusive. I can very comfortably be a Muslim, a practicing Muslim in this country, and I'm very blessed to have the ability to do so. And Islam, as the brothers were saying, there's many places where Islam tells us we're required to be good citizens. We're required to obey the laws of the country we're living in, as long as it's not something that's violating our religion. And there's no need for us to feel like we have to rebel against an entire society for not quite agreeing with us. And that's a big misconception. I think ISIS is suffering from it, and there are a lot of people in general are suffering from it. Two quotes that I hold very dear are, first of all, the second line of the Declaration of Independence, which I'm sure everybody knows. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their freedom with certain inalienable rights. And that's a very Islamic perspective. Unfortunately, as the brother was saying, a lack of knowledge can lead to a lot of confusion. Ignorance is a very dangerous thing. And one of the things that appealed to me most about Islam is that we're commanded constantly in the Quran, in our holy book, to learn, to reflect. The first verse that was revealed was the word read or recite. So we're mandated as Muslims to learn and educate ourselves. When we fail to do that, then we end up with this conflict of identities. We end up with people who think you can't be American and Muslim. You can't be Muslim in anything but Muslim. My religion is absolutely central to my existence, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I'm very blessed to have been born and raised in this country, to live someplace where I have the right to just decide to put a scarf on my head one day and call myself a Muslim, and no one can say anything about it. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I'm really looking forward to any questions you guys have, and I'll pass this on to the Imam.
Okay. ISIS. So ISIS, according to some individuals, especially critics of Islam, who don't want to study or understand the other side of Islam, writers and critics, who doesn't want to balance, who doesn't want to understand what Islam stood for, what Islam meant, what Islam means, what Islam has contributed to the civility and civilization of the world. Those critics who rely upon media, critics who rely upon newspaper, critics who rely upon few opinionated individuals. And they go forward and they write many articles, or they use the media to say that all Muslims are terrorists, all Muslims are killers, all Muslims because of ISIS and ISIS and ISIS. I don't know how truthful this is, because if you read Quran, our scripture, the source of our teaching, Islam is promoting dialogue. Islam is inviting the rest of the world to dialogue. For example, Quran chapter 3, verse 64. Quran chapter 3, verse 64, God the Almighty says, "Qul say Muhammad, Ya Ahl al-Kitab, all the people of the book, Ta'ala, Ta'ala, anyone who knows Arabic, Ta'ala means come." Islam is inviting non-Muslims or dialogue. تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم. So I think this point is very crucial. It makes the Muslim or Islam to be accommodating. It makes Islam to be inclusive. It makes me, or it qualifies me to sit in front of you and talk with you. Do I have any bomb on me now? Are you scared of me as I'm sitting here? Is this water a bomb, weapon of mass destruction? Until when we sit and we open our hearts and we go back to the history of our existence, especially in a country like this, then we will make just conclusions and just judgments. This serves as my introduction. Stereotype is not going to help. Stigmatization is not going to help us. Stigma. Fanatism is not going to help us. Because America belongs to everybody. And we are entitled to abide with the law and order. And being Americans, whether a Christian or a Jewish or a Muslim or a Buddhist, it also qualifies us to be part of the, what I call, world village, because the world has become a village. So, point number one is that Islam encourages dialogue, Islam encourages discussions, Islam encourages being wisdom. We have to be respectful during our debates and dialogue. That is point number one. What is the proof? I'm sitting in front of you to discuss what is considered or what is regarded and what is perceived to be the most sensitive topic today in the world. I'm sitting in front of you. Second point. Islam is not new in this country. Islam is never new in this country. We go back to 8 centuries, almost 800 years, Islam has been in this country. Not 200 years. No. It goes beyond slavery. When Africans were brought from Africa, Islam was already here. Read books. Read books. Read your history. Especially in this land, land of enchantment, land of milk and honey, here. Muslims were here. Through Spain, we were here. So we are not foreigners. Anybody who talks, unless you don't understand the history, oh, those Muslims, they should go back to their countries. Where? Where is my country, if not America? I'm part of America. I've been a Muslim. My forefathers were Muslims. I'm here. So don't talk to me as a foreigner. If there is an issue of injustice, let us deal with the issue and agenda, but not my background and personality. Many people don't understand. Because they do associate Islam to Arabs. Of course, Quran was revealed in Arabic. Prophet Muhammad is an Arab, but Muhammad was not only sent to Arabs. God says in the Holy Quran, chapter 21, verse 107, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And we sent you not but as a mercy to the world, not only to the world. That is why I'm not an Arab and I'm a Muslim. That is why they said she's my wife, right? I don't know if she admitted it. Of course, she's my wife. She's an American. She's a Muslim American. And I'm seeing Pakistani American, Muslim American. Another point before I go to I lay a foundation of our dialogue today is that as much as we associate Islam to Arabs, do not forget, if you know, if you read, if you follow news, you will understand that Arabs are only 18% of the Islamic world to 20%. Majority in the Islamic house and bedrooms are non-Arabs. something, they say a Muslim. That is good. But I expected real justice from Christianity, Judaism, and Buddhism. That whenever a Jewish does something, we use the same scale of weighing things and say Judaism. I will never do that as a Muslim. My religion does not allow me to associate or affiliate a follower of a religion to affiliate his or her wrongdoings to his religion. When John does something, they don't say Catholic people. When Jane or Janet or Ashley does something, I'm talking of crime against humanity, they don't say that this belongs to Jehovah's Witness. They don't put it on Christianity, except when an individual, a Muslim, does something, they say Islam. That is not justice, unless you are a hater. Prisons are full of criminals, and maybe few of them are innocent. Are they all Muslims? In Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, this is not Africa, this is not Saudi Arabia, this is not Afghanistan, this is not Iraq. Oklahoma. America registered a history of the first suicide one. Bomber. Was he a Muslim? A Christian. Did you hear any Muslim saying that Christians have acted? No. Who was that? He was arraigned in the court as a person, as an individual. The world never said Christianity, even though he was a right-wing Christian. This is the justice that we need to pursue. It has to be our pursuit when we discuss wrong things, oppression and injustice that is taking place in the world today. So Arabs at 18 to 20%. In fact, a country with a majority of Muslims is not an Arab, not one single Arab country, but Indonesia. For your information, we have Coptic Christians in Egypt. We have Christians in Lebanon. We have Christians who live in Libya and other places, Arab Christians. Even though they're the minority, but they're having the same names of Abdullah and Abdul and Salim. And I wish if whoever associates crime or wrongdoing or oppression or injustice with Islam understands that. And my topic, because I know we want to share questions, I'm just preparing my audience to ask questions. There is no heavenly religion except that it has a provision for non-adherent of that particular faith. It has a provision of justice, of kindness, of generosity, of forgiveness, of mercy, of tolerance and reconciliation. I talk to Jewish, and they agree with me that we have a provision. I talk to Christians and they talk to me about love and forgiveness. I talk to Muslims and I find that one of the beautiful names and attributes is Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Ghafur, Ar-Rahim. God is the most compassionate, the most forgiving, the most merciful. And God is teaching us is not in not less than one place that we should forgive, fa'afu wasfa', forgive and pardon. God is teaching us to be merciful to one another. But again, the problem is in the history, and I'm talking of 21st century, is there a place where a Jewish transgressed the boundaries, where a Jewish killed the innocent or not? Is there a historic event where a Christian used the name, I'm talking of a group of Christians, used Christianity to kill innocent, where the Christians, they used that against other Christians or other people who belong to other faiths? Is there? Is it recorded or not? Did we say Christianity, in the history today as we are talking, is there a place and time where some Muslims transgressed the boundaries and killed some innocent people or not? We say yes, yes, yes. The question is, then why are we excluding others? Buddhists did it, Buddhists did it, atheists did it, people who are not affiliated to any religion did it. Why then Islam makes the headline? Why can't we be inclusive and say atrocities and wrongdoings and injustices have been done by Buddhists, by Jewish, by Christians, and by some Muslims? Why can't we talk like that? If we don't mature in reasoning, we are creating more hate with these dialogues. We are not helping the world. We are becoming selfish. We have to help the world heal. We should not be part of the problem. You can write many things, but it doesn't mean that it makes sense. You can say thousands of words because of your bias, and you are naive, because of prejudice, because of lack of going deep to the history. We want to talk, let us be inclusive, and let us generalize, and then be part of the solution. And I will stop there. Thanks for coming and listening to us.
Okay, so whoever has questions, raise your hand and I will bring the mic to you. And we want you to ask your question into the mic so everybody can hear. So, any questions?
I think what you're talking about is very important for people to get past that first step of not buying into the media's bias about Islam. Like everyone should be accepting of other people's religions and so forth. But I think when it comes to ISIS, it really has to do with the political agenda of divide and conquer. And that's really what it comes down to, because when you say, oh, a person of Islamic faith has been doing all these terrorist activities, but you're not labeling others that way, it's because of their political agenda. They want to demonize Islamic people, and so that they can push like the Patriot to take away rights and things like that. And I think it also goes back into history of like the British creating Sharia law and dividing tribes within Islam and creating a kind of tyranny out of Islamic law by interpreting it a certain way and imposing really harsh penalties and so forth, where it can be interpreted in a more inclusive way. I mean, look at like other places in the Middle East where Muslims and Christians and other people of faith were living together for hundreds and hundreds of years with no problem. But politicians and dynasties want to use religions or want to use political ideologies to push their agendas. So I think it's a little more complicated. But I wanted to know if you had any information about, there's these articles that talk about, is ISIS trying to be an independent sovereign state, or is it really just that's a media cover for what the U.S. is using ISIS for and shifting the focus on Al-Qaeda to ISIS?
Before I grew, when I was being breastfed, in my village, before I understood the world, before